What is really happening in the antibiotic space? Because again, if I have a sore throat, I want an antibiotic. I mean, can you please tell us a little bit about this? When do I use the antibiotics and when do I know that I do not have to use any of these?
So the answer really is that you never have to use antibiotics if you're healthy. The answer to this really is that if your immunity is high, you don't fall sick. And we saw that during COVID time as well. All the people who fell sick, we learned this new word called comorbidities. So people who had something else wrong with them fell sick and ultimately fell prey even to COVID, for example. But people who had good resistance, who had good immunity levels, really did not fall sick at all, or they had very mild attacks. So the answer really lies in building your immunity over a period of time. Now, whether you do it through yoga, whether you do it through homeopathy, through Ayurveda, through whatever method you want, or through just a good lifestyle, a regulated, disciplined lifestyle, that's very important. Then you don't need an antibiotic. There are actually two sides to a coin, and both are important. And this is what we believe in homeopathy, and I'm just explaining that in a very simple manner. So one of them is the immunity of a person. So if the immunity is low, you fall sick. And the other thing is the virulence of the virus. So no matter how strong your immunity is, but if the virus is very strong and very fatal, you can still fall sick and you can still die of it. So it's the balance of the two. So on one side, you have to see that the virility of the virus is not so strong, that it goes down, and the other side, you have to see the immunity goes up. And in trying to kill the virus or the bacteria, in some cases, what happens is that you then kill the immunity.
Yes.
And you then fall repeatedly ill. You fall sick again, and then that cycle continues.
You also mentioned this in your book, Healing with Homeopathy. I was mentioning to you, I was reading about it. You spoke about this. You have, of course, several examples in that book. But on cold, you said, again, you want to pop a pill if you just rest your body for 2 days and take enough fluids, enough fibers, steam inhalation, it will settle down. But the moment you take a pill, it kills your immunity and then that cycle. So I think it's along the similar lines.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm saying, there's a joke in medicine and it's very common, but it's worth repeating, which says that it takes 7 days with medicine and a week without it to actually treat a cold. It's as simple as that. So, a lot of diseases are self-regulated. They're self-timed. So if you allow them to pass, they pass away. But you don't allow the body to heal yourself. So coming back to antibiotics, therefore, so I think two things over there, three things that I like to point out. The first thing is that we are always in a hurry to treat ourselves. And therefore, we are putting pressure on ourselves and on our doctors to prescribe antibiotics, even when they're not required. And antibiotics are good only for bacterial infections. They're not good for viral infections. Sure. And today, a lot of the infections that we get are viral and they're not bacterial. So they're completely misused. That's point number one. Okay. The second thing is that before you take any antibiotic, you're supposed to do a test. Just like how before you start a skin product, you do a patch test. Like that, you do a test. So you have to make sure that that antibiotic is resistant or not resistant and effective against a particular bacteria. Because there are so many antibiotics, all of them may not be suitable to kill that particular bacteria. Nobody does it today. So today the testing for the bacteria, for the antibiotic is not done and we just take it directly. So a lot of the antibiotics that are used are actually useless.
How is that testing done?
You do a blood test. It's called a culture. It's called a blood culture. So with the blood culture, you find out whether what antibiotic is going to be useful for that particular infection. And you then use that antibiotic and it works well. So this is normally what is done. Now today nobody does it because nobody has time. So number one is self-medication. Number two is getting a culture done to get specific antibiotic use. And the third is what is called AMR, which is antimicrobial resistance. So what happens is that because I've used so much of antibiotic on my body, when I actually need it, doesn't work. And so today millions of people are dying all over the world because when the antibiotic could have been used for a specific purpose, which was a serious infection,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And today so many kids are dying also because, they're also immune. So I think that's the third part. And the fourth part, a very important part, when I was doing research, I found this out, is that they're not spending enough money to find a new good antibiotic. Do you know that the last reasonable antibiotic or effective antibiotic that was produced by the pharma industry was in 1987? That's almost 40 years ago.
Wow.
In last 40 years, there has been no research whatsoever. No new antibiotic has come. We're all using all old antibiotics. Why are they doing this? They're doing this because all antibiotics are used for acute infections. How long do you take medicine for acute infection? 3 days, 7 days. I don't want to spend my money on that. I want to research diabetes because it's lifelong. So today the whole industry is spending money on NCDs, as they're called, which are non-communicable disorders, which are lifelong, so that you can take medicine lifelong. So you will take medicine for high blood pressure lifelong, you will take medicine for heart lifelong, you will take medicine for diabetes lifelong. So all the research is going, cancer also as well.
Yes.
So all research money is going over there and no research money is going in antibiotics today. And antibiotics were at one time the miracle drug because you did not die, you could do infection, then you didn't have post-surgical infections because use of antibiotics, because so many people used to get infected post-surgery. So it actually changed the whole paradigm. It was a paradigm shift in medicine. Today we are losing it.
If you enjoyed watching this content, you can watch the full in-depth video on the Body to Being podcast hosted on Shlloka YouTube channel. To continue watching shorter pieces of this content, you can subscribe to Shlloka Clips on YouTube. Don't forget to like this video and follow us on Spotify. Pranam.